So, you want to start a PlayStation 2 collection? Well, look no further, as I, Metro Otaku Gamer, am a huge fan of the PlayStation 2, and I have selected 10 games from my personal collection that I feel like are necessary for anyone who's starting a PlayStation 2 collection to have in their possession. Now, some of these games are not going to be your typical picks. There are a lot of really great games on the PlayStation 2. A lot of them I personally do not own, so that's why I've kind of selected 10 games from my own personal collection, and they are from a wide variety of genres. And these are also games that you can get fairly cheap these days. So before I dive into sharing my top 10 picks for games that any PlayStation 2 collector should have when starting off a new PlayStation 2 collection, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and let's dive into some amazing PlayStation 2 games. Okay, so starting off, let's say you have around $400 saved up to start your PlayStation 2 collection. Now, right off the bat, you're definitely going to be needing a console, which I would highly recommend getting the fat PlayStation 2. This thing is built like a tank. This thing can take multiple hits, but you definitely do not want to be beating the living snot out of your game consoles. But yeah, the fat model is also the one that I grew up playing. This is one that I've had for many years. Now, I have two fat models. This is not the one that I play on right now. But yeah, it is my favorite model, and this one will go for around $80 to $100 on the secondary market. Now, if you're lucky, you will also get a memory card included with that, as well as the controller and the hookup, so you are able to start collecting games. And I've selected 10 games from my personal collection of many different genres, starting off with 3D platformers, which the PlayStation 2 had a lot of really great 3D platformers. Now, I'm choosing one that is a bit of a hidden gem here, and this is Totobot Plus Mysteries of the Karakuri, a 3D action puzzle platformer by Tecmo, where you play as a young boy named Bolt, who uses these mysterious robot companions known as the Totobots to explore many different ruins, fight off against the enemies of the ruins known as the Keepers, as well as this other villainous and faction that is also like exploring these ruins and trying to find the great treasures that are hidden deep within. And if you are a fan of like Mega Man Legends on the PlayStation 1, you'll definitely end up really liking Totobot Plus. This one is fairly cheap. You could probably get lucky and find a CIB copy for around $15 at your local game store or online. I believe that's how much that I paid for it, so I'm going to say about $15 for Totobot Plus. Now, for survival horror, I had to go with an obvious classic from Capcom, which is Resident Evil 4. This is an amazing game, despite some people hating on Resident Evil 4 because it's not like true survival horror, it's more action focused, but this is a staple in the survival horror genre. You play as Leon S. Kennedy, who is sent to this Spanish island, or Spanish Isle, I don't remember, but he is on... He's in a mysterious location in Europe, and he is trying to rescue the president's daughter from a cult that is using this parasite known as Las Plagas to infect these villagers and turn them into like these pseudo-zombie type creatures, and it's a fantastic game. There's also a side story where you play as Ada Wong called Separate Ways, so there's a lot of content in Resident Evil 4, And this is fairly cheap. You could probably find a CIB copy for around $20. And that right there is going to be about roughly 150, 145 out of your budget spent. And you already got two amazing games. And next up, I went with one of my favorite fighting games on the PlayStation 2. That's also fairly cheap. You can find this for around $25 CIB. This is Capcom vs. SNK 2, Mark of the Millennium. This is a really great 2D arcade style fighting game with characters from Capcom and SNK crossing over to duke it out in the arena. And this can provide dozens of hours of fun, and it also supports up to 2 players. So if you are able to find a second controller for dirt cheap, which you definitely can find a second controller for dirt cheap for around $5 to $10, and invite a friend over, and you can have hundreds of hours of fun with this game. So next up, I don't really know what genre to really put this in per se, other than that it is a combat flight simulator, which there are quite a few on the PlayStation 2 that are worth checking out. And for my recommendation, I am going with Ace Combat 5: The Unsung War, where you play as a member of the, I think it's called the Warhawk or Warhead Squadron. Well, you play as a fighter pilot who is a member of the Ocean Federation, as they are going to war with the the Yuko something Republic. Sorry if I'm butchering the names of this. Now, this is the first Ace Combat game that I've ever played, but it is pretty fun. I've played a few missions of it so far, and I've never really gotten into this type of game before, any kind of flight combat simulator type games, but I feel like I can really enjoy this game, and I played it long enough to give my recommendation for this game. You can find it for around $10 CIB if you're lucky, and it's pretty cheap and it's pretty fun. Okay, so for a first-person / third-person shooter, you have to get Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is another name that you can find for around $10 to $15 CIB, and this is an absolute masterpiece. This is a classic Star Wars game, one of my all-time favorites growing up. I played the living crap out of this game on both PC and PlayStation 2, and you can even play up to 2 players co-op. There are space missions, there are on-foot missions, there's instant action where you can just get straight into it. The campaign has you follow the 501st Legion during the twilight years of the Clone Wars leading into the rise of the Empire, and it is just absolute fun. I love Star Wars Battlefront 2. I cannot recommend this game enough. Okay, so the next up, I chose an action hack and slash game, which the PlayStation 2 had a metric crap ton of games, ranging from like the Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, to Devil May Cry. And I'm going with Chaos Legion here. Now, I could have gone with a Devil May Cry game, but that's going to be an obvious choice. Chaos Legion here is a 3D hack and slash action game from Capcom, where you play as Zed Warhite through a gothic setting, and he has the ability to summon different legions from like the Bomb Legion, the Arrow Legion, and as well as like a Soldier Legion, as he is cutting through all sorts of different enemies, trying to figure out who's trying to like figure out why an old friend of his is like become an enemy and all that. I do highly recommend this game. It is a lot of fun. It is a really great hack and slash action game, and not a whole lot of people really know about Chaos Legion. Okay, so next up, I went with like an arcade shooter type game, and this is another hidden gem. This is Sub Rebellion, where you play as a high-tech alliance attack submarine known as the Kronos, and as the entire planet has been like covered with water after a whole bunch of wars, and you are trying to take on this empire and send them to Kingdom Come using the Kronos nuclear attack submarine. And this is kind of like a 3D action adventure shooter type game, but it has a very arcade heavy feel to it. So that's why I'm recommending Sub Rebellion. Oh yeah, with both Chaos Legion and Sub Rebellion, you can find these for about $15 each. So then next up, going into some JRPGs, starting off with my recommendation for turn-based, because the PlayStation 2 has both turn-based RPGs and action RPGs galore, as well as some tactical RPGs, but those can also get tossed in with the turn-based games. And there are some really great staples on the PlayStation 2, like Final Fantasy X, the Suikoden series. There's also Shadow Hearts, Wild Arms, and for my choice for turn-based RPG, for those that are starting off a PlayStation 2 collection, have to go with Wild Arms 3 here, which centers around Virginia Maxwell as well as 3 other characters who all like come together in the very beginning, and then they just go on a worldwide journey to try and save their dying world. And this is an awesome Western-style JRPG with some amazing turn-based combat. And this is like the cheapest of all the Wild Arms games. You could find this CIB for around $20. And if you really want to get into the Wild Arms series, I would highly recommend starting with like Wild Arms 3. Now, fortunately, every single game in the Wild Arms series are like their own self-contained story. Even though they're all centered around on the same planet, they're all their own self-contained story. And actually, each game has its own iteration of the planet Gaia, which is the main planet that every single Wild Arms game is set on, and it has a really nice cowboy western aesthetic to it, which you won't really find in any modern JRPGs as far as I know. So yeah, I would highly recommend going with Wild Arms 3. And then next up for action RPG, which there are a whole lot of them that are within a kind of a budget-friendly range between $10 to around $30 CIB, and I have to go with one that will provide you hundreds of hours of endless fun, especially since there are multiple endings. There is an extensive post-game adventure that you can go on that lasts for as long as the main story itself, and that is Star Ocean Till the End of Time. This is the first game in the Star Ocean series that I heavily got into. This is the game that introduced me to action RPGs, and I absolutely love it. I've played this game for well over 100 hours. It is one of my all-time favorites on the console. This is the latest in the timeline for the Star Ocean series, where you play as Fate Lion God, who is on vacation with his family and his childhood friend Sophia Estede, which both of them are featured on the back here. So while they are on vacation, an alien force invades the planet that they are on, and during the evacuation process, Fate ends up getting separated from everyone and is in an escape pod that ends up crash landing on an underdeveloped planet, which is a staple in the Star Ocean series for the main protagonist to wind up on a underdeveloped planet, which is a planet that is kind of set in a high fantasy civilization. And he winds up teaming up with Cliff, who is a member of this anti-Federation group known as Port, and they end up escaping one underdeveloped planet, end up crashing on another underdeveloped planet, and aiding in one kingdom's war against another kingdom. And then it all turns out that this whole journey ends up spanning almost the entire galaxy, and there's a major plot twist towards the end of the game that is very divisive among fans, but I'm one of those that absolutely loves this game, plot twists and all. And this game goes for around $10 CIB. This is one of the cheapest games on the PlayStation 2 that is in the action RPG genre, and this is a must-have. I absolutely love this game. It is really fun, real-time combat. Now, there is one major quirk with the combat, and that is that there is a thing that is featured in this game that isn't featured in other Star Ocean games, and that are MP kills. So if your character or an enemy ends up losing all their MP, they become incapacitated, and you will have to use revival items on your team members if that does happen, because there are attacks that can drain your MP. Like, enemies can attack you, your MP directly, and you can do the same to them. So that can get very annoying, but despite all of that, this is still a really great game. The main story is roughly around 50 to 70 hours long. Even longer if you want to do some of the side quests, as well as there's an extensive crafting system which is featured in all the Star Ocean games. I cannot recommend this game enough. So, lastly, I'm going to go with, like, a holy grail. So, altogether, we got $10 for Star Ocean, $15 for Star Wars Battlefront 2, about $10 for Ace Combat 5. That's about $35 there. About $20 to $25 for Wild Arms. I'm going to go with about $20. $15 for Chaos Legion. $15 for Sub Rebellion. So that's about roughly around 120 or so. So let's say you have about, after all of this adds up, you have roughly $100 to work with, and you want to get yourself a Holy Grail. Now, I have actually two choices here. One of them is one that I would highly recommend a bit more, but these both go for around the same amount CIB. And my choices for Holy Grail would be Suikoden 5 or Art to Naruto 2 Melody of Metaphalica. Now, with Suikoden 5, this is more of a prequel to the entire series. It's set about 6 years before the beginning of the first game. And Art to Naruto 2 is its own self-contained story, even though it is the sequel to the first Art to Naruto game. And both of these are turn-based RPGs that will cost you around $90 CIB. Now, luckily for me, I did not pay that, but that's besides the point. Both of these are fantastic turn-based RPGs. Now, I will say, warning with Art to Naruto 2, the North American physical here on PlayStation 2 does have a game-breaking glitch towards the end of it. So if that is going to be a bit of a turnoff, then probably go with Suikoden 5, because I did not hear there were any problems with the localization with that. But even though there is a problem with the localization with Art to Naruto 2, it's still a really great turn-based RPG, one of my all-time favorites. and I cannot recommend this game enough. There's also like visual novel segments, so if you do like visual novels, you'll also enjoy that. There's also some very raunchy humor. It has a really fast-paced Vanguard style battle system. You can dish out tons of damage using sun magic. You have characters known as Raven-tails that can produce sun magic, and it has a really confusing story at first, but you will start to understand things come towards the end of it, and it is just a beautiful game in my opinion. Right? You couldn't go wrong with getting either Artanelco 2 or Suikoden 5 as a holy grail for your PlayStation 2 collection. Okay, so those are my recommendations for some must-have games for starting off with a PlayStation 2 collection. And I actually did the math, and turns out if you have like a $400 budget, you will actually be able to get both of these holy grails if you wanted to, and still have some money left over for like another good game. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my recommendations here for must-have PlayStation 2 games. I feel like I chose some really, really great ones. And I wanted to start off a video like this doing the PlayStation 2 because it's my favorite console of all time. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section below, because I'm planning on doing more like this for other consoles in the future. So with that, I'm Mecha Otaku Gamer, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.